Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Yeah. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. And if you ever want to find us, you can go to GCNlive.com. GCN, as in Genesis Communications Network, GCNlive.com. And we are known as USA Prepares. I'm delighted to be broadcasting third time with Phil Hudok. Hudok.info, HUDOK.info. Welcome, Phil.
Good morning, Vince. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's delightful broadcasting with you, Phil. I wanted to share a quick story because we're talking about independence from lots of government help. And that's what we'll be doing today. And so I was thinking about, before the broadcast, I was thinking while I was sleeping last night about the complexity of life. And this is all caused by the government. Several government corporations. The U.S. government corporation, feds, and then the counties, and then the cities, and the states. And you put all that together, and here's what you get. So I wanted to buy 4 garden hoses, commercial garden hoses, and they were on sale on the Internet for $26.99. 50-foot, rubber, heavy-duty, wide temperature range. So if I wanted to put out a fire here at the farm, I could use them. If I wanted to water livestock, I could use it for that. So they don't freeze until really, really cold temperatures, and they can take 165 in the heat. So they're not these cheap hoses. Well, $35.99. Well, that would be at the regular price. Sears would sell them at $26.99. So I decided to buy 4, but Sears doesn't have them. So I decided to price match and see if I could get a price match down to $26.99. I found them at Ace Hardware. They have them. They said, no, we're not going to do 20% off. But what we will do is, we won't sell them for $26.99. We will sell them for 20% off, which is $28.79. I said, okay, great. I'd like to buy 4. And I said, but I'm tax exempt because it's for the farm. Because I didn't want to spend another $2.30 a piece to pay the state government tax for each one of these hoses. Because that times 4, it's almost $10. I mean, really, for the privilege of buying hoses for the farm, I wouldn't do it. Which meant that I had to fill out a state tax exemption form and declare why these are tax exempt. So I had to have a copy of it, which meant I have to have a file folder here at the farm, and I had to have a filing cabinet. And I filled it out, and I made a copy, which meant I needed a photocopier. Okay? So this is so I can be tax exempt. Now, then when I brought it to Ace Hardware, they had to file it, right? And they had to maintain, because they're going to get challenged on why did our farm not pay tax on these 4 hoses, right? So I have to do all these things, which means I needed a filing folder, a filing cabinet, a copier, and then I need a computer to prepare all the stuff for the annual state, county, and federal taxes. And I have to keep these things for years. So I need actually a room in our farmhouse just to keep up with this nonsense that I would not have to keep up with if it weren't for those guys trying to steal from me and requiring me to maintain records on all the things that I purchased for the farm.
Exactly. And, that complicated system actually aids and abets their conditioning of people to be compliant. And it's our compliance that aids and abets government tyranny. So, look at what happened in Poland when the Polish people, there was a movement there for freedom, and I think it was led by a man named Lech Wałęsa, if I said that right. But right. That brought down a tyrannical government simply because the people said, no, we're not doing this. This is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And it's even worse than that in the United States, because I've taught some seminars on in person and on the air about learning how to start your own business and avoid paying taxes the way Donald Trump and others do, because the laws are written for those who have businesses and property. If you don't have a business and you don't have property, you're paying more taxes than you should. Okay? So I've been teaching this class, but hardly anybody, if anybody, has really wanted to take the time and effort to learn how to do this. And it really works. You can give yourself a 35% raise, like right now, if you start a business. And that 8% that I saved on sales tax, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the tip. So immediately I got an 8% discount over what, the GDP would pay for those same hoses.
Right. Right. Well, freedom isn't free. It requires effort. Right. And if you're compliant, you're just aiding and abetting the system. And I refuse to do that.
Me too. And here's what people do who are compliant. And I've asked people across the country, in person and on the radio, so do you do your own taxes? No. Okay, why? Oh, geez. It's always the same answer. Too complicated. Too complicated. Too many rules. Too hard to figure out. Oh, man, I can't do that. Too hard. So what do you do? Well, I hire somebody. Who do you hire? Well, there's this guy. And, this guy knows everything. He knows ins and outs. He used to work for the IRS, or he's a CPA. He knows all the deductions. He knows how to do it. So people will pay those guys. One guy paid up to $9,000 in one of my little seminars for filling out his taxes for his company. $9,000. So you have to pay a guy $9,000 to tell you how much you need to write a check for to the government corporations? I mean, that was the highest anybody ever paid. Most people pay, a couple $100, but I'm not going to pay a couple $100. I'm going to read their rules, and I'm going to take advantage of their rules. But what I'm saying is, you wouldn't even have to do that if you follow hudok.info and just say, you know what, heck with it, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. That's right. And biblically speaking, there are two kinds of sin. There's the sin of commission and the sin of omission. And in the book of James, it says, to those who know to do right and doeth it not, to him it is sin. So for me to help a government continue to be tyrannical and lawless, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Not only that, Phil Hudok, but I was talking to someone who wanted to give a rifle to a family member. Give. And the family member did not live in the same state. So they asked me, how's this go? So I said, well, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, if you call them up, they're going to say, well, you have to go to a federal firearms license dealer. You'll have to have the giving person bring that rifle to the federal firearms dealer. That person will pack it up and ship it, charge you for packing and shipping, and a fee for handling it. And they'll send it to another federal firearms guy in your state. And then you'll go pick it up, and that guy, the receiving FFL dealer, will charge you for handling it too. So it's probably going to be $35 plus $35 for handling each end, plus, shipping. Let's say it's $25 more. So you're looking at about $100. Whereas if you didn't have to do this, you could just say, if you guys were face to face, you could say, here it is. That, I'm glad to give this to you. But no. It's too complicated. And that's the kind of stuff we're going through. But if you do the research, it'll say, no, I just give it to them. Another one will say, another part on the internet will say, no, you have to go through an FFL, or you can't figure it out. So what do? You call the police, and you call 3 or 4 of those guys, and you get 3 or 4 different answers. So now it means, so let's say you're driving along with this thing. You say, well, I'll go visit my relative. I'll just pick it up. Next time I see him, next time I'm over there in Kansas, I'll just pick it up and drive it back. And then you get stopped by the police and they go, what are you doing? This is registered to somebody else. Yeah, but they gave it to me. Oh, no, you can't do that. So you don't know because the rules are impossible to figure out.
Right.
Even if you want to comply.
George Washington warned us the government was like fire. So, they operate out of force, and it's always for their benefit, which is money and power. So, when you see a church that is prohibited from the government to feed needy people on the street, is the government doing good? I don't think so. Right?
Well, Dr. Norm Shealy has said publicly on the air right here on USA Prepares, he can't think of anything, I'm paraphrasing, that they get right. Nothing. I'm talking about the government corporation. Alan in Indiana, welcome. You're on with Phil Hudok.
Yes. Phil, you're having problems with the notice award at the recording office?
The federal court refused to file. They broke the law. So we basically told them that they broke the law, and we published it. And there will be an article in the local paper, and I'm sure that will be part of the article, is how the court refused to follow their own guidelines.
The recording office here in Indiana, I had some stuff recorded, and I basically put notice on the top of the paperwork. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to record public notices. And a friend of mine was at the courthouse about a month ago, and I stopped to see what he was doing, and he says, they won't record my paperwork. And I says, well, let me see it. And I wrote notice on the top of it. I walked in, and they recorded it. And he was in there 20 minutes before. Mm-hmm. And the woman sort of grunted and went and sat at the desk and talked to her associate. And then she says, yeah, $25, we'll record it. And so I gave her the $25, did the paperwork, and I turned around, and she must have pressed the buzzer because there was a cop standing at the door.
Everything's hit and miss. You never know how you're going to be treated because you don't really get due process. That's the problem. There is no honesty.
If you want, I could record it at my recorder's office, and it's good all over the United States. And I'll send you a copy of it recorded.
That may be a possibility. It does state in the Arbitration Act that it is to be recorded in your local, in your area. But that's an option that I will consider then. I appreciate that.
If Vince wants to take my phone number, I've got your phone number. I could give you a call later.
That'll work. As a matter of fact, it'd be better. Well, yeah, give me a call.
Yeah, go directly through Phil Hudok, Alan. It's not that I don't want to. I'd be delighted to, but I think you don't need a middleman. You go right to Phil Hudok.
Right.
Alan, did you want to stay with us through the break and share anything else with? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It sounds like Alan is not going to take it lying down either. Alan's not going to back down. At least that's what I'm hearing. Phil Hudok's with us. Hudok.info. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Phil Hudok's with us. Hudok, HUDOK.info. Alan is with us in Indiana via telephone. Alan?
Yes. I was wondering...
Something else
Phil,
you want to share?
Yes, Phil. On Social Security disability, a friend of mine is on that. Would he lose that if he opted in?
No, if you look at the settlement that we are taking for forcing enforcement, that is something that, again, they took from you. It's not an entitlement. It's not out of the goodness of their heart that they're giving that to you. So we demand that not be affected, plus government pensions, Medicare, things like that they have taken your sweat and your money to give you that promise. We demand that be kept.
Yes. And then also on the abstraction award, that you get a passport and you also get plates for your car.
Well, not a passport. What you get is documentation that you have immunity and that you are free to travel much as a diplomat. Okay, but you will. It doesn't include a passport. It does include land patent to your property through the land patent office. But go ahead.
If I wanted to get a passport to travel overseas, is that possible?
Oh, for sure. See, one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that by opting in, they opt into the contract, which was established through the award. Now, what things in that contract that they want to impose or to affect, they can. For instance, let's say someone is a truck driver, a professional truck driver, and they're going to use, the King's highways to travel. Well, they can still get their CDL, and when they're driving, they're still going to follow the rules involved in commercial travel. However, when their job is done, when they're not truck driving, they don't have to pay income tax. You can decide exactly what it is. It's not all or nothing. And you can present counter offers to their contracts. Let's say you're a doctor and you still want to take Medicare. Well, then, you either determine what it is that you will have to be compliant in order to get the Medicare payments, or you present a counter offer and say, I will do this. And people don't understand that we think it's just however the government dictates. No, you can. You're a person who is able to contract. You can contract the way you want to contract. That's what we're opening up to people. Do you want to be, contracting through the Constitution and all the things that, the voided Constitution, I should say, or what it is that they say they're using for authority? But it's not, everything or nothing. You can go that route where you have the choice. That's what it is. It's free will choice. What do you want to choose to do?
And then I noticed in the bottom of the abstract award, if you commit federal crimes, they will deport you.
Yes, but that's very, very limited. It has to be done in the U.S. Supreme Court, and you have to do something which would have been in which you would have got the death penalty. In other words, it has to be a very, very serious crime. So,
right.
When the country was established, what was, what could get you the death penalty? Well, that's the only thing. And then the only thing they can do is to have you leave the country. But right. That's the same as a diplomat. That's how diplomatic immunity works. They can be told to leave.
Vince was talking about ownership of firearms. If I bought a new firearm at a gun shop or from a manufacturer, do I have to go through all the background checks and all this stuff?
That would really depend on the manufacturer or, the gun shop, wherever you go. You can't, they're going to have their policies, but I'm sure you will be able to have guns and get them the way you want them, correct?
Yeah. Right. Okay.
What about, I've got a follow-up question. Alan, would you like to stay through because the bottom of the hour, because I've got some questions about guns. It's important to all of us in class today. Okay.
Yeah.
Phil Hudok's with us, hudok.info. Class, you can go to the website and read about what we're talking about in detail. We'll be right back. Phil Hudok's with us. Alan in Indiana's with us. And we're talking about guns for a couple moments. And in most states, it's legal to buy a gun privately. So, for example, if the buyer and the seller are in the same state, you can, in many, many states, you can transact with the buyer if you're the seller, or vice versa, and you can agree for some sum or even a gift of a rifle or a pistol or a shotgun. You can say, well, it's kind of like a refrigerator or a used refrigerator at a garage sale or a yard sale. or a used toolbox or used TV, it's personal property and no fees, no filing, no documents in most states. So I think what we're talking about is that would be very easy to accomplish either in the present system or under the New Deal, as Phil Hudok is discussing. Isn't that what you're talking about, Phil? A New Deal, just like Franklin Delano Roosevelt was proposing, a New Deal with the people?
This is negating a broken deal. Yes, and we offered a new deal, a new contract with a new standing under a new law form, and it was accepted by the government. So that's, I want to explain that. And first of all, if I use the word person, that's just through conditioning. I'm talking about a man or a woman, because the legal, the definition of a person is not what most people think it is. Okay, just like I don't like to use the term kids because those are baby goats. I prefer to use children, but I sometimes slip up. We've been in this sea of conditioning for a long time. But if
we all
a person, a man or woman, I should say, decides to opt in, they join our upcoming settlement. Now, they can actually take the validated contract and obtain their own settlement of enforcement. You follow me? They don't have to do exactly what we're doing, but they would have to do some work in order to get a settlement. But the contract has been validated, so anyone can use it. It's out there for anyone. And then what you decide to the government cannot interface with you as our contract is written and the enforcement will entail. They cannot interface with you. So, when people say, well, what if I do this? Can the government? No, the government can't do anything. You are like a diplomat. They can't. However, if you want to contract in some way, that's up to you. This brings in free will, and people need to understand that with freedom comes responsibility. So, this is not for someone who wants to be cradle to grave and not make any intelligent decisions and do what they're told.
Phil, let me ask you this. So, as our property, for example, we have 1 mile of road frontage, and let's say we decide to opt in. Now, that means we're not going to be paying taxes. We're not going to be paying personal property taxes, real estate taxes, federal taxes, no taxes. And the government comes by with the road grader to smooth out the road. Now, they just may lift up that road grader and not do the part in front of our house, right?
I would say that would be their decision, yes, because you have not contracted with them to do your road now. Right.
And I just want to make
you could go
clear.
You could go to the local DMV and or whatever you call it, Department of Highways, and just say, I will make a little contract with you, and I will help you out if you help me out. That's the way things should work. It should be mutually beneficial.
It used to be like that.
Yeah, and be determined to be an acceptable contract both ways. We just don't have an acceptable contract anymore with the federal government or any government for that matter. And how could we when they're corporations? That's the root problem.
And in that situation, class, I believe the county government would take care of the road anyway, because there are people on both sides of us that would want to use the road, and if they didn't maintain it, the people on either side of us wouldn't be able to get through. So they probably maintain it anyway. So I'm just saying that there are things to think about, and then think it through a little bit more, and you might find out, well, that's really not a concern anyway. As I said, they'll probably take care of the road anyway. I mean, they might want to spite Vincent Finelli and family, initially, but then the uproar would be so great. Hey, we use that road too, coming from our neighbors, and they'd probably back down. Alan, your thoughts?
Yes. I had another question. I am a man born on this land, America. Would I have a right to hunt for food?
Absolutely. You're an American still. You're not rescinding the fact that you are an American. Of course, you could always hunt on your own property, but if you're hunting on some other land, you would want to get permission from the landowner. And if it's state land, again, you may want to work out, make a counteroffer with the state and say, I would like to hunt on your land. How could we do that since it's their land? It is.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Although we do pay taxes on it, so they certainly should accommodate you in some way. But then you wouldn't be paying taxes. Let's get back to that, unless you want to. If you want to pay tax, go ahead. You can do that.
All right. Would I still have a right to sue another man or woman in a court?
This has nothing to do with anything private. This is only to do with government interactions. That's it. It has nothing to do with, if someone's suing you privately, they can sue you, you can sue them. The private interaction between people and businesses, whatever, that's not affected by Treaty of Peace 2020.
Okay.
And what about the public training camp for our young, the ones that would traditionally go to K through 12 grades?
Well, first of all, unless you have a very unique situation like my wife and I had, we were homeschooling through the government. You should take your children out of schools. If you don't have to pay income tax and sales tax, you should have the money now that you were spending in that regard to homeschool or to private school your children.
In the state of Missouri, it takes about $10,000 per head for 1 year of education. That would be the average between kindergarten and 12th grade, $10,000 a year in our county here in Missouri, and we're not special. So some counties are a little higher, some are a little lower, but it's about $10,000. So if you think it's going to be $3,000, it's not. If you think it's going to be $8,000, it's not. It's going to be about $10,000. So it's an enormous amount of money, enormous, and there's not much positive outcome as a result of that $10,000 expenditure. And as Phil Hudok said, I'll say it a little bit differently. If you love your children, take them out of the public training camp, because they may end up being predisposed to things that you and exposed to things that you do not want them to be exposed to, like homosexuality and transgender and all of this other perversion. And that's in the public training camp right here, right now. Alan?
Yeah, they can't even sign their name. They have to make a mark.
Well, you're talking about cursive writing?
Yeah, they're not teaching that anymore.
Right.
Yeah, at the school where my wife and I taught, in this county, they weren't teaching cursive writing, but we did. That was the neat thing about in this little mountain school. We were pretty much isolated from the Board of Education with only 40, when I was there, 43 students. So we ran the school the way it should be run. And I taught, like I say, actually taught creationism in biology. If you think about it, the high school textbooks take 1/3 of every chapter, whether it be reptiles, fish, amphibians, birds, mammals. They take 1/3 of every chapter and they dedicate it to the evolution of fish, the evolution of birds. That actually has, even if it were absolutely rock solid true, what good is it? You need to know the form and the function. You don't need to know what turned into what and how. That's ridiculous. So I told them, you can read it there. Here's what it actually is, what evolution says, but here's what I believe, and we're just going to look at the form and function because that's a waste.
Yeah, they're also teaching the Muslim religion in public schools, and you bring a Bible there and they'll kick you out.
That is correct. A lot of people don't know that H.G. Wells was a Fabian socialist. He was a social engineer, and he said that the teaching of biology was the way to kill Christianity. He co-authored a biology textbook with Julian Huxley, Aldous Huxley's brother, the guy who wrote Brave New World. And And that's, H.G. Wells. You want to learn a lot of things? Read H.G. Wells.
Yeah. All right. I'll give you a call then, Phil. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Alan, thank you so much. It's a great call. I'm glad Alan was with us. Okay, so Phil, what are the downsides? I'm sure some people are very concerned about what could go wrong. Will they be arrested if they're traveling down the highways and byways for pleasure, not trying to earn a living with their vehicles, just traveling to pick up some food at the local supermarket where they won't pay sales tax anymore? What are the downsides, if any?
Well, if they personally are driving with a state permission piece called a driver's license, which they aren't even really drivers, but because that's a commercial term. But I would keep that until you get your documentation that you are free to travel. A diplomat has to do the exact same thing that you will have to do if you're stopped and they want to see your papers, please. I wouldn't run from them. Don't give them an opportunity to do something nefarious. Be polite, but be firm. Exercise your God-given rights or God-given blessings, and stand up, be counted. It's like the school system; it'll never be corrected from inside. Don't wait for it; it's not going to happen. So, be a whistleblower. These 1,500 people now that we have that have opted in, they're whistleblowers. They are not just doing right for themselves, but they're doing right for actually the greater good. You hear about the establishment talking about the greater good and why we should all be vaccinated for the greater good, and it's all based on lies. The herd immunity, that's a lie. So, stand up.
Yeah, and if you listen to Dr. Norman Shuley, he'll tell you that the vaccinations are really dangerous, and it's so dangerous that they are destroying our immune system and have destroyed our immune system. So now we are susceptible to, eating a candy bar that has ingredients that used to be okay for us to eat, like sesame seeds. Class Phil Hudok is with us, hudok.info, HUDOK.info. Phil, I've done a little bit of research to find out how much the average person, let me say it this way, the average taxpayer pays in a lifetime. Now, class, would you sign up, let's say you are my age or Phil's age, around high 60s in terms of years on the planet, and you could sign up to pay about $355,000 in your lifetime. Would you do it? How about if you are brand new and your income would be a little higher because salaries are a little higher now, inflation is roaring, and you would get to pay about $1.4 million in your lifetime if you started today? Would you do it? I wouldn't. I absolutely would not do it. So, Phil, we're talking about those numbers, aren't we? And we're talking about not paying those numbers, aren't we?
Absolutely. There's such a thing as monetary slavery. And I want to address those that are apprehensive about opting in. They need to realize that by government, laws, policy, and recent precedent, the people who opt in are operating 100% legally. So, there are those who are either jealous or government agent provocateurs who are trying to scare people. And I hate to see that. So, do your homework. Don't trust me. I'm as open and transparent as I can possibly be. There's nothing hidden here. There's no monetary reward for me for people to opt in, and there's really no risk for them. They can't lose money or anything else. So I just don't understand.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one of my questions. Is there anything in terms of a monetary reward of any kind for Phil Hudok? And you just said no. Paul in Kentucky, welcome. You're on with Phil Hudok.
Hey, Phil, people keep asking about their Social Security benefits and whatnot. But in your documents, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned that we should be getting our Kesca QV trust. So am I correct that there should actually be a payment coming to people?
That's a big question mark. We know that the trust exists. We don't know because they won't tell us what's in those trusts. But this contract forces the government to give you an accounting of that Kesca trust. So that's a big question mark. Could it be a lot? A lot of people say it could be. But there's no guarantee. So I can't guarantee anything on that except that there has to be a full accounting, and anything held in our names must be given to us. But the Social Security, I understand that that's a different, you're talking about two different things and two different parts of the contract.
Right. I was just kind of thinking that if we do get paid our Kesca QV trust, then who cares about, the measly bit that we get for Social Security? It's kind of what I was thinking.
That's very possible. Very, very possible. And a lot of people for a long time have been trying to get an accounting, just like Ron Paul has been trying to audit the Federal Reserve. And how many years did he try? 20-some years entering bills into Congress? They wouldn't do it. But we have an order which is it cannot be reviewed. It's done. It's just the enforcement now, and that's the great part. For me, the pressure's off, except that I really do want to get as many people up to speed on what it is, and have them understand that this option is there. So that's what motivates me right now. But as far as any anxiety in what we did, like over the past 5 years, that's over. It's done. We have it in hand. All these other people, and some of them that are criticizing us, they don't have anything to show. We do.
Yeah. I've got another question. Vince kind of mentioned earlier about taxes, how it's just difficult for people to get answers. We look for answers, and they're hard to find. So my question is, if everything comes through and law enforcement harasses us in any way, for a lot of us, it's going to be really difficult to know how to stand up for ourselves. And I'm one that's been studying this stuff for quite a while now, and for as long as I've been studying, I actually know very little because there's so much misinformation. So do you have a suggestion of where we could go to actually learn how to stand up for ourselves, like in court or whatnot?
20 seconds.
You will not have to stand up for yourself in court because they cannot interface. Always remember that. You're outside the court system. So you don't even have to worry about the court. Once you have this award, this contract, you've opted in. You do not interface, period.
Well, I guess I was thinking, if they do
gentlemen,
violate our rights.
We're out of time. We'll see if we can get Phil Hudok back in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much. This hour, Peggy Gawley is with us. And, Peggy, I want to thank you for all the effort that you have made to help one of your fellow USA Preparedness instructors, Sonny Skidmore. Class, for those of you who don't know, Sonny Skidmore is the owner of a radio station in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and she's 90 years old, was involved in an automobile accident, and had her legs amputated above the knee. And she's recovering in a skilled care center where they are providing therapy and meals and teaching her how to get back to where she was, because she wants to go back to the radio station and run the radio station the way she had been for a great part of her life. And believe it or not, Sunny Skidmore in her nursing home room is running the radio station from there. It would just be better if she were closer to the microphone so she could sit behind the microphone and run the broadcast and be on the air as an on-air personality as she had been before the accident. So we're going into this probably about 3 weeks now. And so Sunny would appreciate your prayers if you'd like to offer them for her. And she's in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And Peggy has been working to make sure that her medical insurance stays in place to the best we can make it happen. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you, Vincent. I'm so glad to be here. And I will tell you, Sunny is so delightful. I have not someone 90 years old with the positive attitude that she exudes and the determination. Who wouldn't want to help Sunny? You know, she's just really been through a lot, really more than what most people could ever imagine. And so I'm happy to be here today and share some insights on, you know, people that are going through something like this, long-term care, skilled nursing facilities. What do people do? You know, it could happen to any of us at any time.
Peggy, are you using a speakerphone?
No. Can you? Is it reverberating?
Yeah. Maybe if you're a little. I think that sounds a little better.
Just a second.
Yeah. Okay. Peggy Gawley is a supplemental insurance specialist in Springfield, Missouri, and I'll let her tell you, you know, how you can contact her if you desire to do that. And she is, she's the person who we use, Mrs. Finelli and I use. There's no cost or obligation for her services. She's paid by the company she works for, Holes, Acres, and Arney in Springfield, Missouri. And so she has advised us on how we can get the best bang for the buck. And it's really, really complicated. So, for example, if you have certain prescriptions that you desire to take, well, those prescriptions will cost different amounts at different stores, drugstores, pharmacies, online versus in person, location dependent, and your premiums will be different depending on the provider. So it's moving. It's a lot of moving pieces, and it's very, very difficult to navigate. And if you make a mistake, it can take you out financially, literally. And we're going to be talking about that. Peggy, are you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me better now?
That's about the same, but let's continue.
Okay. So I am certified in long-term care. I help people with Medicare, help pick insurance that's going to protect their health. And so I will tell you, I've experienced people that don't have any supplemental insurance to carry them when things like this happen. So if I may, in Sunny's situation, she only has original Medicare. She has original Medicare Part A and she has Part B. So original Medicare only pays 80% of Part A hospital and Part B outpatient. And so for 2020 class, so if you are in the hospital, the Medicare Part A hospital deductible in 2020 is $1,408 per benefit period. That's a 60-day period. So if you go in the hospital and you only have original Medicare, you have a $1,408 benefit period, 60 days. And then after days 61 through 90, you have a coinsurance of $352 per day. So, you know, this can be extremely expensive. And, you know, when Sunny went in and had her amputation, you know, she has the deductible and she has coinsurance for her hospitalization. And so now, then she left the hospital and she's in a skilled nursing facility. Medicare only pays the first 20 days in a skilled nursing facility. And after 20 days, there's a coinsurance of $176 per day for days 21 through 100. So she has to absorb these costs herself. Are you hearing me okay, Phil?
Yeah, I am, and I did the multiplication, and it's roughly $5,100 a month that you're talking about for the skilled nursing facility that she is, she's at, I think she's past day 21 now, or very close to it. So she's up to $5,100 a day, actually a little bit more than that. So class, how many of us are ready to come up with $5,100 a month, or roughly $176 a day?
Yes, it's quite expensive. And so, I don't consider myself an insurance agent. I consider myself an advocate and an advisor to help people like Mr. and Mrs. Spinelli protect your health. It's not an insurance policy. It's protecting your health. And so when you have these gaps, unfortunately, Sunny didn't have anyone to advise her like I was able to help Mr. and Mrs. Spinelli to fill in these holes. So you may think, well, I've got Medicare, original Medicare, but there are a lot of gaps and out-of-pocket costs that you could be responsible for out of pocket.
Peggy, when my wife and I came to meet you the first time, she had done weeks of research, and she is a degreed mathematician. She used to design computer systems for some of the largest corporations in the country, if not the world. So she is a very detailed-oriented person, and she's very bright. And she spent weeks trying to figure this out. And then when we came to meet with you, it was like a couple more hours with you as an expert just to get the paperwork done. So this class, I'm telling you, this is really complicated. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of moving parts. It's extremely difficult. So let's talk about Sunny's case, and I'm sure this is okay with her. So in a person who, she's doing a fine job, everything's working great. All of a sudden, she had no idea she was going to be in this car accident. Bang, her life is upside down, inside out. And, no one said it, but she could lose her livelihood. She could lose her everything as a result of making some mistakes that are not obvious in terms of Medicare and supplemental insurance. Is that right or not?
That is right. And in fact, a few weeks ago, Sunny, Vincent, you asked me to call her. And so I reached out to her and she said, Peggy, can you get me a supplement? And the problem is that, when you're eligible for Medicare initially, like Mr. and Mrs. Spinelli were, you have a guarantee issued to take anything you want, and they have to accept you. In her case, she's 90 years old, so she doesn't have, she can't get a supplement because of her health condition. So, it's really, really important to have someone advocate for you and go over what your options are. Now, Vincent, since we spoke last, I wanted to share something since we spoke and since I spoke with Sunny that's very, very unique. It can be done. I did tell Sunny she's not eligible to get a supplement. However, there is a way to do this, and it has been done. Some of my agents across the country have experienced this. So, okay. She lives in Poplar Bluff, so she only has original Medicare. She can't get a supplement. So there's a few ways to get a Medicare supplement that are unique. So let me give you an example. Social Security Administration does not care where you live. They do not care where you live. You can live anywhere you want to. So I have had some clients that have actually changed their address and moved to another area out of a service area. So let me back up a step. This is open enrollment season for Medicare. Anyone can enroll right now, October 15th through December 7th, in a Medicare Advantage plan, which is a health plan. It's a HMO network of doctors and hospitals. So if you join a Medicare Advantage plan during open enrollment, which Sunny could actually do this because it's still open enrollment period. So say she joins the Medicare Advantage plan on January 1. If she's on that Advantage plan and say she changes her address with Social Security Administration and moves in with a neighbor or whatever, and she moves outside of that service area for that Medicare Advantage plan, again, Social Security Administration doesn't care where you live. If she moves out of the service area where that plan offers benefits, she gets a guarantee issue to get a Medicare supplement. And we didn't talk about this week. I've been discussing it with my colleagues, but this is a way that she could actually get a Medicare supplement that would pick up these co-pays and these deductibles under original Medicare.
So she could move from $5,700 or $5,100 a month or more down to what? What kind of a number?
Down to paying maybe $200 a month for a premium and have no out-of-pocket, no co-pays, no deductibles. Just like your supplement, you pay one premium and you don't have any co-pays or deductibles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, is this dishonest, or is this all above board?
This is above board. Now, here's the thing: you do have to change your address. You do have to follow the rules, but you can move even if you move for a month, and you can Social Security. If you change your address, Social Security Administration, your Medicare Advantage plan is going to kick you off and send you a letter saying you're no longer in our.
We thought we would take this opportunity to share with you some of the complications. And the reason we're doing this is to let you know that this could happen to anyone. It's going to happen to you. I mean, nobody wants this to happen. But it is so complicated that you need to think about it. You know, what is one of the worst case scenarios regarding insurance? And how would you pay for care if you happen to be put in a nursing home as a result of an accident, for example? And my family faced this. My dad was in a truck, his personal vehicle, and someone fell asleep at the wheel, crashed into him. 5 months in surgical trauma intensive care. And then to teach him how to move his arms and legs after being in an induced coma for months. It was quite a road to hoe. It really was. And so fortunately it all worked out for us. But the bills were staggering. And so this could happen. And that's why I asked Peggy off air, weeks ago, if she could look into this and see if she could help Sonny Skidmore. And we're just sharing what she's found out. So Peggy, please continue. This is very interesting. So someone who could not get supplemental insurance, there is a workaround. That's what you're saying, right?
There is. And I have, like I said, I have spoken at National Medicare Supplement Conferences. I have colleagues that have owned their own Medicare agencies that are sharing this via YouTube videos, letting people know that there is a way to do this legally. It's not illegal. You could move anywhere you want. You could change your address. Some people spend 3 months with their cousin, So, again, you can change your address. When you change your address with Social Security Administration, that's linked to Medicare. So your Medicare Advantage plan is going to go, okay, Ms. Skidmore, you're no longer in our service area, so they will send a letter stating that you are no longer on that plan. Now, if you move to another area that has a Medicare Advantage plan, will they call you and say, hey, we have something? Possibly, but you don't have to. So, like I said, this is legitimate. It's been done. I have probably spent 3 years before I started sharing this because I did my due diligence and wanted to make sure that can this really work? And it can. So you can, and then that is a guarantee issue into a Medicare supplement policy, which is what you and Ms. Spinelli have, that will pick up that other 20% that Sonny is being exposed to right now that, you know, is very, very, very costly.
And that's because she has a room, she's got meals, she's got doctor's checkups, doctor's visits, nurses' visits, injections, all the things that happen for a person's care when they are on the mend. So we don't know how long it's going to be that she's going to be in there. But is it possible that she could lose her home as a result of this? So is that possible?
Well, actually, I was just, before we went on the air, I was just doing a little bit of my research about, you know, I'm not an expert on Medicaid, but I do know that every facility has someone that will help evaluate. So there are things that you are allowed to keep. One home is exempt, one car. There are things that you are able to protect, a prepaid funeral plan, a life insurance policy. So there are things that you can protect, but I'm looking right now at a Genworth. Genworth is a long-term care company, and they have what's called a cost of care survey. So every day until 2030, 10,000 baby boomers will turn 65, and 7 out of 10 people will require long-term care in their lifetime. So I looked at some median daily costs for Cape Girardeau, which is where Sonny is at. Semi-private room, $160 a day. This is quite expensive. So most people can't afford long-term care, Vincent. I mean, it's very expensive. Years ago, it was...
Peggy Gawley is with us. Peggy, I looked up the skilled facility where Sonny Skidmore is spending time now. And they say on their website that the average length of stay at that facility, not the average, but at that particular facility, is 36 and a half days. And we talked about how Medicare pays for 20 days. Then it goes on to say that according to the latest records, the average daily amount billed by this facility to Medicare is $579 a day. The Missouri average is $661 a day. And the average Medicare reimbursement to this skilled nursing facility is $298 a day. That means if the average is $579 and they get reimbursed $298, we're looking at an enormous amount of money that is owed by the patient. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And the average age of a person at this particular facility is 73. Sonny is 90.
Yes. I want to mention something I didn't before the break. And this is so important because when you're in a hospital, and I actually spoke with the facility administrator who was extremely transparent and nice about talking about his facility. Here's one of the most important things. So skilled nursing care, one of the most important pre-qualifiers is you have to have what's called a qualifying hospital stay. And this has happened to so many of my clients. They can get skilled nursing care, but they have to have had a 3-night hospital stay. 3 nights. And so a lot of times when you're in the hospital and you know you need intermittent care. You know you can't go home. You need rehab. A lot of the times the hospital may try and send you home. If they send you home before those 3 days, guess what? You don't qualify for skilled nursing. Did you know that?
Yes, and I don't know why, but that 3 days, they try to get you out before then.
They do. They do. So it's, you've really got to have your doctor advocate for you. And I've seen this happen over and over where you've got like opposing teams on a football team. You've got the case managers at the facility, and then you've got the health care, Medicare. So the doctor says you need the rehab. The facility says, well, you're doing better. So you've really got to have your doctor advocate for you. You can stay in skilled nursing as long as that you're getting better, and that's why they cover physical therapy, occupational therapy, rehab. That's the whole point of it, is to get you better. But as it only covers up to 100 days, and then after 100 days, that's considered long-term care.
Let me just share with our class something that they may not be thinking about. So at this particular nursing home, I'm going to give you some percentages of patients that have these following conditions. Now, some may have multiple conditions, but Alzheimer's, 67% of them. Asthma, 25%. Cancer, 14%. Congestive heart failure, 41%. COPD, 47%. Depression, 73%. Diabetes, 49%. Osteoporosis, 14%. Schizophrenia, 37%. Stroke, 18%. And then there are other conditions, which I don't know the abbreviations, what they mean. But what I'm saying is, if you think you're facing some of these conditions, or have some of them, and think you may end up in one of these facilities, you need to make sure that you understand the supplemental insurance and advantage plans. And it is so complicated, I don't even know if we can discuss it on the air.
It is very complicated. You need someone that can explain all your options. It's very complicated.
Peggy,
this is your health.
Peggy, when people come to visit you in your office and make an appointment, I mean, your phone is on Do Not Disturb. It is 100% of the time focused on solving and resolving and planning for the Medicare, the benefits, the advantage plans, and the supplemental insurance. How many people what percentage of the people would you say walk in and understand what's going on from the beginning after you shake hands and say hello? How many people know right then and there what's going on? Compared to how many people don't know and say, I don't even know what we're talking about.
Well, that's an interesting question because they come in, they've done their research. Oh, I already know about this. I know about this. 10 minutes into the conversation, they feel like they know nothing because of the overwhelming information that they're given. It's complicated. They're getting phone calls. They're getting stuff. This is open enrollment season. They're told one thing, then they're told something else. So, when you talk with a licensed agent that's certified, they have to take tests so that they can have an educated conversation with you and explain all the rules. But most of my clients come in, and I had 3 doctors in one day last week, 3 doctors. The next day I had 2 police officers. They're in a position of authority. They knew nothing. They knew nothing. It was too much, way too much.
And we're talking about medical doctors or PhDs or both?
Medical doctors.
Okay, so medical doctors are dealing with the conditions and the treatment, and they did not understand Medicare and the benefits.
They didn't understand whether they had a supplement or an advantage plan. They didn't even know the difference.
Okay, now Peggy, this might seem like we are selling something here, you and I, right now. But I don't see that, because anyone who's listening who happens to be in your service area who decides to contact you, how much are they going to pay you?
Absolutely nothing. I am a consultant. I'm an advisor. I don't get commission. Now, any licensed insurance agent, if they enroll you in a Medicare plan, the insurance company will pay them a commission. But there is no, I don't solicit anything. I'm referral-based only. I educate people and I consult them. But there's no incentive. There's no fee at all.
Now, are you, in your position, is it to your advantage financially in any way to steer a client of yours in any particular direction, any particular company, any particular offering, any particular plan? Do you get rewarded based on how that client of yours signs up or selects? Do you?
No, in fact, in my annual certifications that I take, I have Medicare marketing guidelines. I can't use certain words. I can't say this is the best. So I have to follow very, very strict guidelines to make sure that I'm non-biased towards one particular plan or another, or one company or another. So those guidelines are set in place that I have to follow, or as an agent, any agent that steers you in the wrong direction should be reported to the Department of Insurance, because it is illegal for us to steer you and guide you in one way or another. Now, you may go to a seminar. You may go to a seminar that one insurance company is giving, and they're going to only talk about that. But it is illegal for them to talk about another company side by side.
Mm-hmm. So if someone receives an offer in the mail and they follow up by saying, "Hey, I got your flyer, I got your letter, I got your propaganda, and you guys are having a seminar on First and Vine at 7:00 at night, and I'd like to attend," and they attend, that is a biased seminar, most probably, to induce people to buy plans offered by that particular seminar provider. Is that right?
Yes, it's one particular company. It's called a captive agent. A captive agent is somebody that only represents one insurance company. Say I worked for, and I'm just naming different companies. Say I worked for Anthem. I would only sell Anthem plans. If I worked for Humana, I'd sell Humana. So when you go to these meetings, there are some agents that will have a general meeting that will just talk about Medicare, but typically these open enrollment meetings are catered towards one particular company. So you're not getting the benefit of looking at all your options.
Peggy Gawley, when Mrs. Finelli and I met with you in your office each time, and there have been more than one visits over the years, we looked at a number of plans, Humana, Anthem, others, and where we would buy if we bought prescriptions, if we wanted to take the drugs, and all of those things change the cost. Every one of those things changed the cost. How long does it take for you in one of your meetings with the door closed with your client? Let's say it's a husband and wife, or let's say it's just one person. How long does it take from the time you start your meeting till the time you and they have discussed what is best for them and they sign everything and you're done? And then you're shaking their hand saying, "Thank you so much. It's been delightful." How much time has elapsed?
Well, minimum of an hour, maybe an hour and a half. For people that have done a lot of research and have been very savvy, they understand what an Advantage plan is, a supplement. But, I sit down and I start from Medicare A, and here's your original Medicare. Here's their option one, here's your option. So, the nice thing about meeting with a non-biased advisor is they're going to ask you questions that are important to you. Do you travel? Do you want to go to any doctor? So it's a very personal decision to make. It's not just buying an insurance policy. You want to sit down with somebody and go over what's important to you. I have people that take 25 medications. Their insulin They've got to make sure. So, there's just different moving parts, as we've said on this show. There's so many moving parts. You want to make sure that your medical is covered. You want to make sure your prescriptions are all covered. So, but minimum of an hour.
Yeah, I think it was 2 hours for us last time we saw you.
Yes. And, I meet with people every year during open enrollment, and they come in, and it's like I don't even remember what we talked about last year. It's just because of all the media hype and the literature they get. So, having that annual visit, just like your annual visit with your doctor, it's kind of what I do. I'm going to make sure and try and keep you healthy and keep your benefits protected.
Yeah, but you're not going to get out in 7 minutes like you would with your doctor. We'll be right back. Peggy Gawley's with us. Peggy, at what age does a person start to get concerned about Medicare? At what age?
Well, also Medicare can be due to disability and age as well. So people that have debilitating conditions can also be eligible for Medicare at any age. But typically, when you're age 64, not 64 and a half, 64 is when you really need to start reaching out, because your insurance companies and agents will buy a list with your name on it, and they can start soliciting, 6 months before, usually 64 and a half. But before your mailbox gets full, before you're going to get robocalls, before you're going to get all this information, I have clients come to me at age 64. They want to be prepared. They want to be able to understand so they can have a conversation when they get all these solicitation calls. So the ideal age is 64. And, a lot of people like to start planning their Social Security as well. So they kind of, I don't handle that. They contact Social Security, but they want to know, what's Medicare going to cost me? What's Part A? What's Part B? What is this going to cost me? So they can plan ahead of time, even if they're going to continue working for several years. So the ideal age to start this research is 64.
Okay, and what is the very first step? What is step one? So we want to do our due diligence. What do we do?
The first thing you need to do, if you're drawing Social Security benefits, some people start at 62. If you're drawing Social Security benefits, they will automatically enroll you in Medicare during your initial enrollment period, and it's called an IEP. It's 7 months. So when you're turning 65, your initial enrollment in Medicare starts 3 months before your 65th birthday, the month of, and 3 months after. So if you're turning 65 in July of 2020, March, April, and May. Let's see. Okay, July. You're turning 65 in July, June, May, April. So 3 months before you're 65, if you're drawing Social Security, they're going to automatically enroll you in Medicare. If you're not drawing Social Security benefits, you have to apply for Medicare yourself. You have to do this yourself. You can go to Social Security's website and apply for Medicare yourself online, or you can make an appointment with Social Security, which most people don't want to do. So you have a 7-month open enrollment period under Medicare, 3 months before you're 65 for the month of and 3 months after. So that's your initial enrollment with Medicare.
And what if a person does nothing?
If you do nothing and you don't enroll in Medicare, of course, Part A is free. You don't pay for Part A if you've worked 10 years or 40 quarters. Part B, there's a premium. So if you go past your 7-month open enrollment period under Medicare, then the only time you can apply is the following year, January 1st through March 31st, is called the general enrollment period. And then it doesn't start till July. So if you don't enroll in Medicare, during your 7-month open enrollment period, then you cannot apply until the first of the next calendar year, January 1st through March 31st, and then it won't start till July. And there can be penalties if you don't enroll. So I never have clients. The literature alone that you're going to be receiving in the mail is a trigger to do something. So it's very rare I have people do absolutely nothing.
Can you share with us a story that could have been avoided in just maybe 1 minute or so? Can you just tell us, had this person done X, he or she would have avoided the following? Do you have one of those?
Yes, I had a gentleman that was told he didn't need Medicare because he was actively working. He didn't enroll in it, and he went in the hospital and had a Part B claim, $130,000. So he did not enroll in Medicare in time. He had an out-of-pocket cost, $130,000 for an outpatient hospital stay, and he had to wait till July to enroll. So, it can cost you thousands. And if you want, you can call 1-800-MEDICARE and ask them, when can I enroll? What's my deadline? What are my costs? But you have to be proactive.
Okay, so let's say that the first step is to call 1-800-MEDICARE. And are we looking at spending a half an hour on the phone at least? Yes.
Don't call Medicare in the morning, call late at night. They're open 24/7, but yes. If you want to share my phone number, Vincent, you can. Sure. I don't solicit anything.
Do it quickly.
Peggy Gawley, 417-881-8333. 881-8333.
Peggy, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's Peggy Gawley.